Hey guys, I'm Melhorn. In this video, I'm going to give you a little sonar tutorial on what I look for when I'm trying to find some fish to catch. All right guys, rolling across a underwater point here. Just looking at what's in here, there's a good mix of stuff. Have some catfish right there. Those hugging the bottom, a little bit thicker arches top to bottom. Money goes to catfish on some of those. Some of this stuff up in here could be gizzard shad. Kind of scattered out. And I'm trying to stay, that's a catfish right there. I'd bet money on that. Get a little thicker sounding there on that. Hopefully you can make that out pretty good. There's some shad, there's some white perch in here. Some of these look like some inactive white perch just from the way the arches are, and they're not really streaking through the sonar cone any. I'm rolling up here, rolling up a little bit shallower. A lot of this stuff is going to be bait fish. Kind of scattered, not schooled up real tight. This is not small thread fin. This is a little bit bigger stuff. Nothing super huge. Nothing that makes me go, oh boy, wow, gotta anchor up here and fish. But there are some scattered fish. We're in about 20 feet of water. So you figure it's about a fourth the depth of the water. So you're looking at about a 5-foot swath down there. Now in our lakes, when you start seeing these color of arches kind of stacked up tight together, that can be white perch. They kind of get schooled up like that. But if they're feeding and active, they're kind of like spaghetti all over. These fish here look like they're just sitting suspended, which those fish are known to do. That's something that is going to vary depending on where you're at and what fish you got in your reservoir. So this is something, you know, depending on where you're at, could be a bunch of shad in there, but it's pretty stacked up with bait. I mean, there's forage fish anyway, is probably what I should say. There's going to be a mixture of all kinds of stuff in there. I'm sure there's some bass mixed in with this. I always jokingly say, if you're fishing for bass, every one of these is a bass. If you're fishing for catfish, every one of them is a catfish. And sadly, that's not quite the case. I wish it was that way. But, you know, there are some fish here. These here, you can see, are not quite attached to the bottom. My money is those are probably catfish. They stage up on the bottom and feed up. And you can get catfish suspended. That's entirely possible, but my money is on these arches on the bottom. I would not call those big fish. So, if you're out here tournament fishing, probably not something you're going to target. If you're out here fun fishing, maybe some fish that you're going to catch. Now what's going to happen is we're sitting in about 21 feet of water, 83-degree water temperature. We're going to roll down into a river channel here. This is what we're coming into right now. You can see it kind of sloping down, probably get down to about 35 feet. And when you start getting these bigger arches suspended up on these channel edges, it's something that can be a little bit exciting. You can tell there's a density change here, and that's starting to get probably some colder water down there, showing up denser. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thermocline. This one is probably not. You can see there are fish down in this thermocline. This is just meaning that you've got some cooler water. It's showing up denser on the sonar, and that's why you're getting that signal you're getting. There are fish in it, a lot of fish right above it. You know, as we get into summertime, and it gets hotter and hotter, that will become a dead zone, and you know, especially in our lakes. It usually starts out around 24, 25, which is typical here. See, fish on the edge, right on the edge of that river channel drop. I'm gonna make a turn, and we're turning, we're kind of on top of the channel edge now. What I'm gonna do is turn more this way, and we're gonna roll back down into it. And let's see how that makes any, just how this thermocline hangs. It's hanging right at 24 feet, and it's amazing how year after year it kind of starts out at that same depth. And see, you got fish below it here. They're in the upper part of it. Remember, fish need, first and foremost among everything else, they need oxygen. So they're going to go where there's oxygen. Comfort, water temperature is going to be the last thing. They're going to be where there's food. So there may not be food down here for some of these bait fish. That's why they're not in there. But you can see arches in this stuff. It's pretty dense. It's considerably cooler. Fish in the tops of it here. So may or may not be totally a dead zone yet. Who knows? There's fish in it there, though. You can see them showing up really good. we click over to the cheater screen, as I call it, which has the down scan, you can see there's fish in that banded area there. That's what those dots are. So there are fish in there. Thermocline's not showing up as good. You can see some density change on there. Usually when this stuff gets really, really cold and really, really stratified, you can tell a big difference there. But some decent looking arches in there. Good fish there on the bottom. That is that fish there. That's the same thing right there. Good fish, one probably worth fishing for. So there is some stuff laying out here. Now what's going to happen is we're going to intersect with another river channel up here. And it's going to continue to stay deep. On the mapping up here, you can kind of see where some of the stuff's at. It's kind of hard to read with all the stuff I got in. Bigger fish in there. You can see that gob up there. And stuff scattered and stacked through here. Down here in the deeper water in that thermocline. That shows you that thermocline is still alive. It's still got oxygen. When you start seeing fish down in it like that, it's still good. And you know, part of that's just the process of as it gets warmer, especially if the lake stays what I call stagnant. There's not a lot of water moving through it. When you don't get a lot of water moving through it, then it's gonna, you know, it's gonna start to stratify more. You start moving water through here, get some heavier rain, some tropical storms or something, it can mix everything up and it's not as big of a deal. Another good fish there. That's that signaling right there. So there's some fish through here. Let's get back to this. We'll get a little more detail on it. So yeah, you can see colder water. Colder water thermocline doesn't necessarily always mean bad, but it can. So just keep that in mind, that sometimes it can be a bad thing. Sometimes it can be a good thing comfort-wise. And like I said, there's fish in here. We're in the river channel. We're in the deepest part of this part of the lake right now. And there are fish all through the water column. I mean, we've got fish from all the way at the top, all the way down to the bottom. It's just a little note when you're riding around in your boat and you're scanning. I'm doing about 3 miles an hour. I'm getting a good signal. I'm getting good arches. You go too fast, you'll start to blow it apart and not see stuff as good. You go too slow, it can kind of take forever to get through there and look at it. So 3 to 5 seems to be a good range. Man, there are a lot of fish in here. Some of these could be crappie. I'm not gonna discount that there are not some crappie in here with some of these fish. There's just a mix of a lot of different stuff in here. Some of the smaller arches could be that. That there, let's go to the cheater screen. I call it a cheater because the down stand, yep, that's a tree. That's what a tree looks like on there. The down scan gives us a lot of answers. You can see that tree over there. You can see it there real clear. The down scan is the cheater screen. It really, this is where it really comes in handy for showing you what different stuff is and exactly what it is. You can see a band right there. There is something going on there. Whether that is, that's a little different than what we're seeing on the thermocline here. Sometimes, especially in salt water, this can show a density change due to nutrients in the water. In reservoirs and lakes, that's probably more something to do with mud or minerals or something in there that's just getting suspended. And it could be a thermal pocket right there. It could just be something that's a little different because of density, possibly maybe water coming in out of another river that's colder. I mean, there's a lot of different combinations as to what that can be. So good arch right there, good fish. And I think this thing is on, yep, I got my sensitivity on auto. So you could go in and change this and I can negative that down and that'll eliminate some of that thermocline stuff. So it's actually taking away some of the sensitivity. Or you can run the sensitivity in manual. I just keep it in auto. Now when you jack this sensitivity up, this is when you really start to see the definition of where that thermal pocket is there. So and that pocket can change, man. It can be a very narrow area of the lake to where it's at. And it could be widespread all over the lake or river. Rivers don't get it as much. Rivers tend to get mixed up some. And kind of stuff gets churned up. So you don't get it as bad. But there's a lot of fish through here. And like I said, we're in the main river channel. And we got stuff top to bottom here. Exit out of that. I want to make a turn back to the edge of the channel just to see what's in there. I mean, I look at this and I go, oh, this, you know, it's fishable. There's stuff in here. The only thing that does kind of make me go, I don't know if it's going to be a good place to fish. And you've heard people who've been on guide trips with me have said, heard me say this, there's too much to eat in here. I like seeing some of those bigger arches attached to the bottom, near the bottom. All right, cheater, let's take a bet. What's that going to be? What's that going to be right there? Is that going to be some bait, or is it going to be like a tree or a pile of logs? That's a tree right there. So that's how it could show up. So that shows you the cheater screen helps there. But again, bigger fish in here. There's some decent fish in this deeper water, and I mean, could be fish that you want to fish for. It all depends on your temperament and your style of fishing. But what I was saying was, there's a lot to eat here, and anytime I start to see a lot to eat, I don't always get excited. I know it's almost like they've got too much to eat. I love seeing some of these bigger arches in areas where it's not loaded with other fish. So that's just my way of looking at it, because these fish are not really attacking large bait schools. So they're eating at their leisure, eating when they want to, and getting away from this smorgasbord of food can be helpful. This here, I'd almost bet money is perch, right on that ledge coming up there into some shallower water. Possibly some bass, crappie staged up in there too. So, like I said, I think we got a mix of stuff. It's really impossible to tell exactly what that is or that is or that is, but I think there's a good mix. What's that right there? Is that a tree? Let's see. Let's go to cheater screen. Cheater screen. Yep, that is a tree, and you can see there's fish right around it. Probably some crappie stacked up on that. You can see those arches there. Not quite as pronounced as some of these bigger ones, but there's other stuff on these edges through here. So, I mean, I like that one. You know, that's if you're a crappie fisherman, flathead fisherman, there's probably a flathead. One of those arches around that thing is probably a flathead that's sitting down in there, you know, doing some staking out. He may live there. That may be his home. That's why I say these brush piles are really, really good. Again, stuff here that I go, man, that's a fish worth fishing for. There's a lot of stuff in here. And remember, you're 20 feet of water. You're only looking at a 5-foot circle below the boat. You know, that is half the width of my boat is what I'm looking at. And everything over here is already past this. Everything right here is straight under the boat right now. If it's over here, we already went past it, so that's back behind us. So I'd say that's a rock. You can see how that's kind of connected to the bottom there. Let's go to our cheater screen and see some kind of some. Oh, that's a good arch there. Ooh, that's a good one. There's the thing I was talking about. Let me go back to that. Let me scroll back. We saw that a minute ago, and I said it looks like something is attached to the bottom. And it does look like a rock or something else laid down there on the bottom. But man, there's some good fishing through here. So that kind of gives you an idea of what I look for, you know, if I'm out here riding and trying to find a place to anchor up, set up for fish. You know, this is kind of a good spot through here. There look like some fish. Now, are they eating? Who knows? Who knows if these fish are eating? You know, good arch. You know, there's a good one there. Got some other stuff around them. Maybe it's some crappie or some perch or some, you know, bass. We've got a lot of bass in this lake. We've got a lot of spotted bass in this lake. Could be some of those. Probably catfish here. Smaller, you know, maybe, I don't know, 3, 5, 6 pound catfish. Starting to see the yellow, not as defined in there. So, but that's kind of what I look for. We're gonna put some baits in the water here on this trip, and we'll see if there's any that want to eat.